Hello, we are once again back with another part of the cell-shaded coal mine environment. I have a couple different things to show off, mainly just the actual environment, and then a little side level where I am assembling everything together. We have a ton of new assets, namely there's this double-decker chamber. You can kind of see that it has some holes in it, kind of strewn throughout the top. Another hole over here, another hole there. Overall, it is a very large chamber. Even more so since there's two layers to it. That is going to be for later on around the outside. We'll deal with that fire in a second. But just look how big this thing is. Oh my goodness. We got this nice little room over here which we can add some stuff to. I might increase the size at some point. I'm not entirely sure. This seems to be about an appropriate size. It's about accurate to like our size of school stuff, so maybe the workers here deserve a bit more, maybe they don't. But we can live with it, they can live with it. This one's the same thing. Just a smaller doorway. They kind of just connect to different parts. Overall, very basic geometry going on with them. Over here, we got some fire going. Honestly, gives a nice little bit to the shading. It's giving me some good hope for what's going to happen later on. This is the coal ring, though. A lot of ice, a lot of coal. Kind of just is where it is. Gonna probably try to do some light trickery just so you see a lot more of the coal detail when you're down there. This kind of seems to be the art style we're going for, just fully just yeah, there's a lot of detail in the null maps and everything, but you're not going to see it unless you have some light shining directly onto it. Very, very cartoon eyes. We had some much more realistic eyes for a bit, and it just really wasn't working out very well. Over here, we have a much more realistic chasm. Oof, oof, everything bad is happening. But yeah, this is the actual chasm. Trying to see if I can get a better look at that. These are some nice little pillar objects. They're in a very weird state due to the colors on them and everything. I'd probably want that gray to be a bit darker now. Might go back and change that eventually. Boom. Here we go. Just the same thing, but falling over. Then we have another example of the chasm. Just kind of showing off, though, this very large decal that we'll be using. Which reminds me, there is an ice decal as well. So if we head back over here, boom, little ice decal. Functionally the same thing as that, but that'll kind of use the surround it just as the fire will. Then if we recent level go to setup, kind of play here where I've been setting up some of the geometry. This is kind of just the entrance point where the mountain will connect to. You'll come down, you'll be like, oh, let me get over there, but you can't. You'll be like, oh, let me get over there, but I can't. So you have this whole thing, got some little bit of new geometry just to have these little inserts. And honestly, I'm just getting sick of throwing all the resources onto that one area. So it's going to be much easier to just start throwing everything in here, but since now we're getting to the point where like all the big geometry and everything has been done, we're sort of just getting to the point where we're going to be decorating a lot of rooms and everything. Once we get the wires in here, it'll be a lot better looking situation. This is what the large chasm really looks like, really feels like. Once again, the situation with everything in here is very weird because like the lighting's not being cut off for some reason, even though all these textures are two-sided. There's a little three-way intersection here. These doorways are going to be where the smaller holes for the employee rooms are going to go. And then right here is where the larger one's going to go. This is all we have for the setup currently, though. It's very interesting to see from the outside. But yeah, that is it for at least everything within Unreal. I guess it's to the point where we've covered everything we wanted to do this time. Large chamber room, check. Work employee rooms, we ended up having to do 2 of those. Coal master chamber, check. Has the large decal ready going for it. Coal ring, yep. Has ice, coal, and has fire to be prepared to surround it, as well as the ice decal, which I forgot to mention on here. Limestone pillars with yellow lines that glow. That indeed is very much there. I might want to change the proportions on them or something at some point, but they are done. Once again, kind of just this is what we're looking like for our release situation. Could go into some detail about some things, but overall, though, we just have a ton of assets this time. Additional walls, chamber done, chamber floor, coal ring, double chamber, employee room, big hole, employee room, small hole, roof to road filler, roof to roof, floor to roof filler, mega dome. I like mega dome. Forgot to include the floor in it, but this is mega dome. Kind of get a better idea of what's going on here when you do this. Kind of have this situation where it's like boom, have these holes going in, and that's how Megadome works. The pillar isn't just not as obvious with the current texture situation. Kind of just is generally this. Has that little hole in the bottom. Wasn't really being shown off too well within Unreal currently. Maybe once we get the outline one in there, if we get the outline in there, pretty easy. I guess we don't really need to show the tri-way floor. It's a square. Boom. But the tri-way intersection, very nice easy geometry. Just simple 3-way thing. The coal ring wasn't very easily visible with what the situation technically is. But this is kind of generally speaking what the coal ring looks like. Obviously there's ice and coal instead of this more blue texture. Even then I might go back and detail the geometry a bit more because there's a couple details missing that are in the comic. The floor to roof filler was a nice little thing I had to make. Truly spent a lot of time this week. This was when I kind of just stayed up all night working on stuff. Have this little thing and it just kind of goes between the doorway and the roof because we had things going down. We ended up having to go down 2 stories though. But that is where we're at. Chamber floor, very simple obviously. It's just the giant circular floor made for the chambers. Chamber dome. It's exactly what you would expect. It's just the dome with the doorway in it. Boom, look at it. Beautiful. Not really a lot of things of like super interest this time to show around, but pillar textures has quite a things going for it. Decals had a couple things going for it. Ended up doing a different alpha than I expected. Coal ring took a while. Round 1, round 2, round 3 of just making corrections. Coal texture had this going for it. We had a nice little ice texture which we were using as a base, but it really just didn't get used at all because it was just really messing with it and it was like taking it complete away from like the fact that this is ice. And the best way to do ice was really just to have no maps at all. I might have already shown pillars, but that is the pillar texture. But yeah, that is everything this time around. We got a nice little ramp which I made just to kind of go through things, but we ended up just way enlarging it to get it to work properly. That is everything for this time around.